The Jays are playing their final game against the Boston Red Sox of the regular season. Will they meet in the wild card? We're going to find out, as their team was hoping to clinch or getting closer to clinching the American League East last night, but Red Sox had other plans.
This one is in the air to right center. It's deep, and it is gone.
And Boston's plans included this, using a 3-run homer in the 8th inning to make it 7-0, and they held on to win this game 7-1. The only hit coming from Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. The Yankees beat the White Sox, so they are now tied with the Jays atop the AL East.
Okay, so let's talk more about this, try to break down the loss, or we could even put the word losses in the prompter right now, and what could be in the cards. Drew Fairservice, writer, long way from sunlight. Drew, it seemed the Jays had it locked up. They were a long way ahead of the Yankees. You know, they were 5 games up on the, clinching the AL East, and now suddenly here we find ourselves. It's all tied up, Jays and Yankees. What do you make of what's been happening with this team in the last kind of week or 10 days?
You have to score runs to win baseball games. I don't think it needs to be any more complicated than that. If you look at this run they've been on, they've scored 1 or 0 runs in 6 of the last 7 games, which coincidentally they've lost. We can think back to a couple weeks ago when the Jays had a really great run, when they were doing all these dramatic comebacks. So not only was that key to the offense being able to support that, but it was the pitching. They were able to keep these games close. They were able to keep the opposing teams to just a few runs. So that way, when the Jays had their opportunity late, they were able to take advantage. And I think that's what we've not seen in this most recent run, where they're giving up more home runs than they're hitting, which is always going to be a big issue for this team, the way that it's built. The Blue Jays are built on, I think John Schneider's line is something to the effect of like all hands on deck. They need all 9 hitters in the lineup to be contributing, and right now they're not, and it puts a lot of pressure on the Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s and George Springers of the world, especially with Bo Bichette out.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is just that pressure and those holes in the lineup at the moment really putting up those losses in that loss column.
Yeah, and of course, with last night, it doesn't help if the pitching is not on par. Max Scherzer didn't have a great start at the mound. In the first inning alone, he allowed for 3 runs. At that point, are you questioning why John Schneider didn't pull him after seeing that? Or is this kind of customary to kind of say, let's see how it goes?
I feel like we saw his last time out in Kansas City as well, when Scherzer was really not sharp on Friday night and really battled and to get through just a single inning. Max Scherzer's a veteran, and he's earned that right and that respect around the league and from the Blue Jays coaching staff to try to battle through. But realistically, they need him. They need to see if he can figure it out. They need to see if he can give them 3, even 4 innings in a postseason game. Because as we saw last night, Jose Barrios coming out of the bullpen, another pitcher who's not really been effective, and a guy who's been really battling it, and again giving up a big home run last night, as Barrios did, that put the game sort of out of reach. There's a lot of pressure on those different spots in the rotation, and the Blue Jays need that all hands on deck approach, but they do need production from everybody.
So, Drew, you follow the team obviously a lot closer than Jen and I do. What are you hearing out of the Jays, post game, pre game, when they're sort of reflecting on the games or looking ahead to games? Are you hearing anything different from them? Like, what are you picking up from the team at this point?
John Schneider's comments last night, I saw Keegan Matheson of MLB.com wrote about this really well, that they were very direct. He was kind of the sky is not falling. We were already clinched a playoff spot. They do have the tiebreaker with the Yankees, so they do have that opportunity that even if they split over the next 4 games, they do have that pathway to the AL East crown. Schneider's big comment was they can't blame the umpires. We saw Vladimir Guerrero Jr. get ejected last night, but the umpires aren't the reason the Blue Jays are scoring 1 run a night. And that's really I like to hear that personally. I don't think that there's any need to make excuses. They need to score runs, and they brought Anthony Santander up from the minor leagues after his long injury absence. That's what they brought him in for, to provide some offense, to add some pop later in the lineup or in different spots in the lineup, and that's really what they need right now. I know, we saw last night with the play with Alejandro Kirk getting thrown out at first base. To me, that's a really interesting synopsis of where the Jays are. Because Alejandro Kirk is as fast as he is, right? There's not a lack of effort.
Yeah.
There's not a lack. That's just who he is. And right now, this is who the Blue Jays are. They're a team that needs to string hits together and really manage games from a pitching perspective, and they're not really doing it. So I like to see John Schneider trying to take a bit of a steady approach, panicking, gripping the bat a little bit too tight. That's not going to help anybody. So steady as she goes, and hope that they can just sort of figure things out and get a good performance on the mound that puts them in a good position.
Okay, so now magic number is still 4, but let's fast forward and approach this with a pessimistic mindset. They earn the wild card. Who are they playing in the? It's Boston, isn't it?
It could well be Boston. I mean, there's no easy games in the postseason.
Yeah.
While they've expanded the field, you don't want to have to go and face the Red Sox. They have a lot of hungry young hitters and some really interesting veterans as well. Fenway Park is a place that nobody ever wants to go for any good reason. So you would love to be able to just win the division and get their pitching set up. If the Blue Jays are faced with the situation where they might have to pitch Kevin Gausman in the last game of the season, if they're in an attempt to try to win that division, that would really complicate things, especially if they don't, and then they are in a wild card series where they don't have Gausman to turn to. So there are still lots of things that can happen. The Blue Jays win tonight, the Yankees lose. Suddenly that magic number is down to 2, and everyone can maybe take a little bit of a breath. But yeah, you want to avoid that wild card. You want to be able to get some extra rest for Bo Bichette. You want to be able to line up your pitching in a way that makes you feel comfortable moving forward. But you got to win the games if you want to do that, and that's kind of what the Blue Jays are up against right now. It
would be nice for Blue Jays fans to not be able to breathe easier, sleep easier, think, okay, things are going better. But Drew, we're going to have to wait and see. Appreciate the analysis this morning. That's Drew Fairservice, fairservice.substack.com. Also, a long way from sunlight. Always appreciate this, Drew. Thanks.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.